But we will continue our program here, and I'm switching to English now. We have another great visitor who's going to teach us some things and how things work in our neighboring countries. We have a visitor from Norway. He is the managing director of buildingSMART. His talk is called A Common Approach to Organizing BIM Collaborations, and he has actually been with us before, and he says that he has had some progress in his work, and it would be nice to get to know if he senses some progress in the development of BIM in Iceland as well. We can get to know that a little bit better if we speak to him during our intermissions today. But please welcome to the stage Steen Sunesen. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Is my mic on? Yes, it is. Thank you. First of all, thanks to BIM Iceland, for having me, actually for the second time now. I'm managing director of buildingSMART Norway, not buildingSMART International, that has to be said. I'm an architect of education and also for training for many years, and went the digital way because I thought everything was going too slow, working so manually. What I'm going to talk about today is this Open BIM Harmony. When I was on stage here 1.5 years ago, it was basically about what we were intending to do and inviting you to collaborate with us to have this common European initiative that we now have branded as Open BIM Harmony. See these happy people, the small group of people, these were the actual work group who was behind it. We got together there was a meeting in 24 in the beginning, 2024 in March, and agreed we would do that. I was here half a year later, and a whole year later we actually published the first version in March 25, so that's a little more than a year ago. And actually, since then, quite a lot of other European countries have joined up. Why Europe? In buildingSMART, we came together. It was actually an Italian initiative to come together and try to establish a group of European chapters. All of us in Europe went along, 22 chapters, and decided that could be a good idea because we have something called EU, and we want to influence EU. Even though, for example, Norway is not part of EU, we are part of another agreement that actually observe 95 or something of the same regulations. So it is important for us. So I'm going to go a little back, the background why we're doing this. This is what you're seeing here is just an example of one piece of information that is something that you use in every project, whether it's infrastructure or it's building. What is an object type? How do we name it? And this is an example from at least from Norway, how you identify it. There is often some classification. There can be some syntax with a serial number, a running number, or anything. You can build logic into it if you want to or not. And you also have the IFC standard, which is an ISO standard that tells you where it should be. And this is really essential information. This is not the only information that is essential, but if you don't have this information, there's a lot of things that you really cannot do with your model. And if you just see, I mean, we're talking about build quantities, we're talking about CO2 footprint to estimating that as well, cost, important, and also digital twin, linking together FM documentation with your models and making it much easier to find your documentation and so on. You can forget about that if you don't have this. And what we saw in my previous job as responsible for BIM in Statsbygg, where the Norwegian government's client and owner for buildings, this is what we got. These are real examples from different projects who deliver this kind of information. It's not following the standards, and it doesn't place it the same way in the model. So downstream people don't find this information. So it's kind of there, but you don't see it or you don't understand it. So we understood that we had to do something. We went together with the industry and tried to find out other clients who had the same problems and talk with designers, contractors, software vendors, and so on. And we got kind of a list of things that did not really work so well. From the client part, either there were no requirements or requirements were a little too creative and had asked for a little too much. Sorry about it's not really aligned here. And also, all requirements from different clients were, of course, not standardized in any way. So every time it was a new project, it was a complete new setup that you have to align to. Also, the requirements are not a part of the agreement. So it was actually not legally binding, meaning that clients very often had to pay extra for their designers to rectify their own mistakes. That doesn't give you leverage, because they didn't know how to do this. There is a standard for it, ISO 9650, but they didn't know how to implement it. So you can say standards, one thing is ISO 9650 is not used, classification standards are not used, many standards are not used. So, and we admit, yeah, there are a lot of standards now. It's good they're there, but it's also actually can be an obstacle for the uptake, especially for the small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs. We're actually building a chasm, a gap in the industry where all the big players have all the smart people who have worked with this for tens of years and know stuff and don't know how to do this. And maybe they don't really need any of this, what I'm going to talk about. But all the SMEs, 90% of the industry, have no chance to catch up because they don't have the resources. They are engaged in small projects that don't have the time. And we need to do something with that. So we wanted to build a solution that, of course, it cannot solve everything, but it should have at least a minimum requirement. So for those clients who don't know what to require for making a building, for this part it was just for building. We are now going in the direction looking at infrastructure as well. But for the first version, it's just for building. And of course express it in a uniform way across whole Europe. So you approach in the tendering process, the procurement process looks the same. And of course has to be part of the agreement. ISO 9650 part, make it easier to understand, use plain language, and also take those standards that are important and make them easier to use. And we try to actually take those normative standards, ISO 9650, level information need, for those of you who are acquainted with that, how to express information requirements in a standardized way. There's actually a guideline that was made in SEN some years ago who actually made the ISO 9650 Part 2 much more operational. We used a lot from that. There is a Norwegian standard series of BIM practices that's actually quite good to refer to. This is actually in process now of becoming an international standard, either on SEN or ISO level. That's something we are discussing now. And we also had requirements for clients that there were good experience with, that had been used for many years, so we know this works. So we didn't invent anything new. We took what already is there and took the minimal part, which is this has to be in place, and put it together in one framework. So put this together, plain language, low threshold, make it usable for small and medium-sized enterprises, but of course also the smaller projects in large corporations. And that's the part we call Open BIM Harmony. I like to compare this with the difference between having a car and driving it. Because digitalization is, of course, technology. And we have heard a lot about technology today, at least the part I understood, because, sorry, my Icelandic is not good. It's not there at all. But you actually also need how to drive your car. If you want to go from A to B efficiently and safely, you actually need how to drive. And this is based on experience and rules. And what we're doing here, we're explaining the rules and sharing all the experience and how you do it. So you actually succeed in your projects, not just operating your tools. And that's the big difference. This is why it's so important. So, Open BIM Harmony will not be directly off-the-shelf product for any company. This is actually provided to the industry through the local buildingSMART chapter. This is something that is made by chapters for chapters. So this will go through BIM Iceland, buildingSMART Iceland, and there will be things that we expect that will be directly adopted, and some things that will be more adapted. I'm going to explain a bit, because there has to be some adjustments when you push something out in the local market. The whole document structure, those two parts that are in red are explained here. The appointing party is often the client, but anybody who actually requires some kind of information or procuring some kind of information. They have to first establish this common data environment so you can work together practically. It's their responsibility. And then make sure that they have specified their information requirement and done it in a way so it's part of the requirement. The lead appointed party, that's the part who is responsible for one or more people or groups that is going to provide the information. That they specify how are they going to do it, specify their goals for when I've done that, I'm done, and also make sure that it's part of the tendering process. So it's not something you do after you have made the agreement, when you have no negotiation leverage. You have to do it a part of the negotiation. This is actually something you have to think. This is the ISO 9650 way, which can be a bit academic or difficult to use. We have operationalized this in a very easy way, using templates and explanations, plain language. So this is something that we expect to adopt directly. Also, we have made this list of information requirements. Just 12 requirements. They're all very generic, and they support all the 9 use cases that are in the documentation for now. Very basic, and this will fit for, I would say, normal building projects like schools, housings, municipality buildings, whatever. Not very complex buildings that want to use this. And all of them have some kind of description how they're going to be delivered. These are the disciplines who have to observe them and deliver on them. And you have made these are the project stages where the information has to be delivered. And then, of course, there's the adaptation part. We expect, of course, things have to be translated. Now it is in English. We don't have a common European classification for identification or many other things, so that has to be adapted to local level. I don't know if you in Iceland, I don't remember if you in Iceland actually have a national classification for systems and objects and components, but you probably have to give some guidelines how to do that. And then there is the national regulation and practices. If you have something that you're used to, this works in our industry, we'll add it here. It's a good idea. And make sure it's not in conflict with what stands here. And it's okay if you take things out and put your own practices in, as long as it works for you and you have it's consistent with the overall idea. And then there's the legal stuff about rights and responsibilities, right for use of information, responsibilities for the information, for example, is correct, information for storage, responsibility for storage of information, and so on. That is something that may also be different between the countries. So these are the adaptation part when Iceland, buildingSMART Iceland, wants to adapt this. Since we have published this for a bit more over a year ago, out of the 22 European chapters representing 25 European countries, we have actually 14 countries actually all of them except one are very positive to this. One is not negative, but they already had their own system and thought this was a bit in conflict with that. Out of those 14 of those actually have ongoing initiatives, or at least are thinking about starting implementation. And there are kind of two groups. One group who already have some some system available either in their buildingSMART chapter or in professional associations who are kind of overlapping with this. They are actually working together with that and making sure that it is aligned with the Open BIM Harmony principle, which again is according to ISO 9650. And then you have countries that are that does not have any existing solution, that are building something completely new, and it's actually a bit easier for them because you can translate it, adopt, adapt, and have your own solution and market in your own country. In parallel to this, there is a group of public client and owners in Europe called EU BIM Task Group. Their focus is BIM, not surprisingly when you look at the name. They said, we have actually looked for years for a project like this, for something like this. So we really want to engage with this and actually to go together with you and also look together with the buildingSMART International's training program and maybe see how can they fit? How can we use such a framework here and train people in Europe, projects and organizations to use this in a way, and so also you could become certified within this system. This is very initial, so how this collaboration will turn out, I don't know. But this is actually quite exciting. I know that going back to the countries who are now implementing, in Greece, they have translated it and are starting to work with it and actually working together with their authorities to not just making it available from chapters, but actually making this legal. The same, they're doing it in Germany. They also translated it, actually translated together with the German speaking, so it's also Austria and Switzerland. But in Germany, they actually now have discussions with the authorities and the Bundesland to see if this can actually be raised on a higher level, so it will actually become policy. And that is quite interesting. I know France and the French speaking, which of course is France, Luxembourg, Belgium, and also Switzerland. They're also looking into this, maybe not so much on authority level, but simply to provide it through their chapters. So things are really moving here. I think we're starting to see something. This was started in Norway, so in parallel when we made the first version, we also worked on a Norwegian version, and that was actually published a month later than the European version. So it's very similar, and they also have these adaptations because we have Norwegian classifications and of course the Norwegian language. We actually went a bit further and added some more parts of it. So it's also have what we call a toolbox, very practical approach, checklist and so on, guidance, how to project execution, modeling of existing buildings, and also integration with the FM system when you come to that part. And I just want to share a experience with that. We have a small project from a municipality, in Oslo, the water supply and sewage authority. They were going to build a small building. It's both infrastructure and a building, and they're using this tool. They're a member of buildingSMART, and we are actually providing training for everybody, all our members who want to start using this. It's a big member advantage. They didn't actually call for help because they said the guidelines were so easy to clear and to read and understand, so we just followed the guidelines. And they invited me into a meeting half a year later to see how are we doing. And I was very proud to say you're doing everything correct. You understood everything right. And what they say, and these are statements, it's not what I made. This is the project owner from the municipality. I'm not going to read it all. But they say they have better control of the process, reduce the risk of misunderstanding, and it's a clear structure that to agree what has to be delivered. So this is a small project that didn't have much time, didn't have extra budget to do this. They said they save time because it didn't have to start from all over. They just read a few pages and said, okay, we have to have this in place. And the consultant, the BIM coordinator from the consultant said exactly the same. It was much easier for them. It reduced their need for probably rework later on, but at least the risk of misunderstanding, which actually often lead to conflict later on, because it's not clear what you thought you were clear about what you agreed, but you were not. So this is kind of a rule. That's why the strength of ISO 9650 is because it actually thinks ahead and is based on a lot of experience. The next version of this we already talked about. It's 1 year old, and we already have some experience, but we want to have a little more. So we're starting planning the next version, but we don't have anything in pipeline right now. It is as it is 1 year old. Also because this relies quite heavily on the ISO 9650. And that is the part 1 to 3 in ISO 9650 is under revision. And that is expected to be published in the first half of the next year. It actually says January next year, but that's probably not realistic. And that they're actually changing the names of quite many of the central terms that they're using from the first version. So we probably have to wait until that is published. We will be working in parallel, but we cannot publish it before. We are also looking at the business model, because this is actually also going to be a product for the chapter for the project, for the chapter to have ownership on, and to provide it's a real value proposition to the members. So maybe this is what we call the toolbox, if we also develop that on European level, and we are thinking about expanding the scope. The first part that are available now would probably always be free, but other parts may actually be behind a membership wall. This is something we have to agree on European level, because it has to be equal between the chapters. Otherwise, you can go shop to your neighbor chapter and get it free there. So that is what we're doing now. And this is 4 chapters who put this together, and now we are actually see a lot of momentum building. Very interesting. I don't know if I will be here 1.5 years down the line and tell about what we're doing again. If you're curious about the documentation, even though I said it has to be provided to use from the local chapter, it's free for everyone to read. You can just go to this site and read it for yourself. The documentation, get it from here. You can contact, of course, BIM Island, of course, about this. We have an ongoing dialogue with them. Very good collaboration. Or you can just email me directly if you want to know more. So thanks a lot. Thanks again for being invited, and very happy to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steen.